organised over there in the corner. So welcome to this is live session number 5. I had to look up in the corner and check what live session we were on. Live session number 5, and we're going live every day in April during the week. And
she's a brave woman.
Or bad. And then we are doing the pre-records over the weekend. So we learned that lesson from doing this in September, that if I go live every single day of the month, by about the 21st or 22nd live, I can't speak. So I'm having recovery over the weekends.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So, but it's such a joy. It's such a joy to actually go live into the artist studios and talk to artists, because you know, we've had a year when people really haven't been able to have proper interaction with artists as they ordinarily would as part of open studios or private views, etc. So this is just a joy. Anyone wondering about what the feedback is? That's just Charlie snoring in the corner. Charlie, Brenda's dog.
Yeah, sorry about that. It has to be the background of anything that I do.
I have an 8-year-old child over here too, so you can hear anything in any minute.
She's going to play the piano later. Don't tell her that she's going to be live on air. So it's an absolute joy to be able to do this, because we've all been, deprived of that normal, fabulous creativity that really like feeds our soul and makes us all feel so happy. So it's a joy for me, and I feel it's a privilege to be able to be the facilitator of going into the artist studios and talking to you guys. Before we start, as normal, a little bit of housekeeping. As you know, our charity for this Art360 edition 2 is the Royal Papworth charity, NHS Charities. And the link is at the bottom here. As you can see, the big green donate button. And if you click on that, you can go through and it gives you the option to donate money if that's what you want. Or if anyone was watching the private view, you know that actually the doctors were saying they really like tea bags, chocolate and biscuits. So there's their Amazon wish list on there, and you can donate directly to the doctors with chocolate, which I think is wonderful. And it keeps them going. And at Papworth especially, they've been running their organ transplants alongside obviously caring for some of the very worst affected people of COVID with their breathing apparatus and giving them an opportunity to recover. So I don't think there's anything better we can do than to support the doctors and to support the NHS at this time, although hopefully everything is starting to get better. And we are now allowed to meet outside with 6 people. I don't know what it's like in America, Daniel, but here we're allowed to meet outside 6 people. And next week, I think the 17th, the galleries and the shops are allowed to reopen, which is just amazing. Oh, it's the nurses and the cleaners get the treats as well. So that's good. I'm pleased to hear that, Sophie. So we're live streaming onto Facebook and onto YouTube, as well as here on Crowdcast. So if anyone's over on those 2 platforms watching us and you have questions, then please do pop them in the comments area, and Sophie is watching and she will bring them over here. Anyone watching here who's got a question, please put them in the Ask a Question area at the bottom of the screen so I don't miss anything. Welcome, Brenda Hartill, Master Printmaker, and Daniel Merriam, painter from America.
Hello. Hello.
So what we're going to do first of all is Brenda has sent me today a little bit of a snippet of a film she made a little while ago. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play you that film, and then when that's finished, I will bring everyone back up on screen, and Daniel and Brenda are going to have a chat, because as one of our judges, which we're very grateful for, Daniel selected Brenda's work alongside Zach Adams and Richard Hayes. Richard Hayes, was it? Yes, it was. As his preferences. So I said it'd be really nice if Daniel was here and had a chat with Brenda, because obviously I've known Brenda for quite a lot of years now, so I'm sure it will be much more dynamic for Daniel to chat to her. So right, the first thing we're going to do is do the film. So we're just going to quietly put Daniel and Brenda down in the corner. They're not going anywhere. They will be back. So we'll see you in a minute, guys. unmute their mics. And then I'm going to share the screen with Brenda's film for you all. Just got to make sure it's the right thing. It's that one there. Share. There we go. And
hi, my name is Brenda Hartill. After many enjoyable years of experimental printmaking, I decided to make these films to pass on my methods and techniques that I have developed. My approach has been a sculptural one, which I believe grew from working with space and light in my years of theatrical design in the 1960s and early 70s. I first became interested in printmaking when, in the mid-1970s, with a small child to care for, my theatrical career became impossible, and I discovered printmaking as an artistic outlet. I was captivated by the properties of etching. The medium had such a wide range of marks with which to express oneself, from the finest, faint, to the strong, heavy line of hard ground, the soft, pencil-like line or heavy charcoal-like drawing of soft ground, as well as the pressed-on textures, and the sculptural three-dimensional possibilities of open biting in the acid, and the wide range of tones possible with aquatent. I had found my medium. From the early days with Frank Connolly at Morley College in London, I spent many years honing my etching skills. My main inspiration at the time was South London. London is London, often related to having young children, and at first I produced a number of figurative works using fine line of drawing and aquatent. Children sliding in the snow, flying kites on Blackheath, cricket and football matches, etc. However, one of the major attractions of etching was being able to create very three-dimensional imagery, and I began to push the medium, leaving my plates in the acid for hours on end. To maintain maximum flexibility, I started to use several plates for an image, and at the peak of this activity, I would have 30 plates bubbling away in the acid, developing whole series at the same time. Gradually, my work moved towards abstraction, and the sculptural aspects became increasingly important. I was in partnership with the acid, semi-controlling it, sometimes allowing it to dictate the direction of the piece. I started to experiment with making embossings using simple plastic, lino cut, leaves, twigs, chipboard or card to create even more three-dimensional qualities. It didn't take me long to realise that if the matrix was made really well, it might be possible to ink it up, thus creating a sculptural image. And so my version of a holograph, a printmaker collage, was born. Of course, there were technical problems. How thick can an object be before it destroys your precious blankets and even your press? Finding a good-natured, heavy paper was vital, and although I had achieved good results from my normal Somerset paper, I started to use this wonderful, soft, heavy, expensive, handmade Duchenne paper from France, a revelation. I then moved on to develop my visual language using the medium holograph, experimenting with card, thin chipboard, plaster, glues, carborundum and plant material, sticking, carving, scratching and honing the image. I found that to make the image read sculpturally, I needed a weaker ink than for etching. I started to develop a colour technique which relied on the three-dimensional aspects of the plate, rather like coloured lights picked up on a stage set, and I could increase the sense of three dimensions by colouring different levels of the plate. Thus my technique of the rubs was born. I also wanted to add light to the image by using silver, gold and copper leaf to enrich the works. In recent times, I've been developing more unique pieces using my printmaking skills to create an embossing, which I use as a starting point for a watercolour. I have also worked with encaustic wax, the ideal medium to bond collage elements, with the added bonus of providing a protective layer, enabling pieces to be shown without glass. But I have not been able to include these elements in this DVD. These films should shed a light on how I've approached my work on many different levels over 35 years, I have enjoyed being able to make a living from my art, and I hope my advice can be useful to further generations.
There's Brenda.
I'm being reduced down again. Thank goodness for that.
There you both are. I'm going to leave you both down. I'm going to go down in the corner. I'm going to focus the screen. No, I can't.
I thought perhaps you were going off for a G&T.
If only. I'm going to turn my camera off because then I'll drop down in the corner, but I'm still on the mic and I can still hear you. But I'm going to leave Daniel and Brenda to have a conversation about the film and about her process and everything. And then in a little while, I'll pop back up. So if anyone's got any questions, please pop them in the Ask a Question area and I'll monitor them. But I have to say, I loved that bit of film. That was really interesting. Right, over to you guys.
Right.
So, should I interview you and start asking
yes,
questions?
all right. Yes, that's a good
one
way
thing
of
I
doing
want
it.
to say is when you're asked to jury a show, you could look at it like, well, I'm going to go research these artists and check out everything they've done first and, form an opinion based on, their whole career. Or is the objective is just to look at the works and, take from that. So what I tried to do is just simply look at what was submitted, and some pieces of art you look at and it's a portal into, you can see there's so much more going on, and the history is evident from the art. That art speaks to you when you can see the control, the depth, the range of technique and everything. So this video you produced that we just watched helped give me much more insight into what you do and who you are and how it came to be. Very effective. But I approach, looking at the work not as a technician, but as a technician of my own work, but more of, did the impact of the art come through? And that now seeing this video brings me back into the realm of technician. But I want to say, first of all, the feeling I got from seeing your art, and I only saw digital pictures of it, but I could tell of the texture, the depth, and the subject matter and the attitude. It encompassed what I wanted to, what I expect a piece of art to do. And
of course, the brief, as far as I was concerned, I was asked to do it from a technical point of view. So I mean, that's what I've been asked to do. So I've got various bits and pieces to show people how it was done. So we will, between us, hopefully we might get somewhere and do something interesting. That was what Leslie asked me to do.
Shall I pop back up?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was interesting to hear why Daniel selected your work, and the fact that he had an emotional response to that in the context of that's what he expects to see in an artwork himself. And what I appreciated was the similarities in your work, Daniel, when you look across the two. Although Brenda's is quite abstract and yours is quite figurative, there is just quite a similarity, isn't there?
I do abstract work too.
Yeah, I know.
I just don't feature it as prominently.
Well, I do figurative too.
Yeah. So one of the first piece that caught my eye were the sheets hanging on the line.
Oh yeah.
And I looked at the picture and I'm like, the texture in the paper, it was like cast paper, and I'm like,
yeah. I really got into doing embossing around about that time, and it was one of the things that took me into colograph, because when I was doing it with a metal plate, I was embossing with a metal plate. I'll show you then a bit later. I could only go so far. couldn't push the whole medium even further. So I started experimenting with putting actual objects in and making them do the embossing. So I started to build up these plates that I then realized I could, if I did it really well, I could ink it up. So then that moved me on to doing this very, very sculptural. And I mean, I honestly, some of the images that I printed have almost destroyed the paper, but sometimes I'm very excited by that. So I have to kind of then get it just right so that it doesn't, you know, make holes. But sometimes it's quite nice to have some holes.
Yeah.
So I play around. Sorry?
When you get into the handmade papers, there's a lot bigger range of, you know, thickness and the fibers. What type of sizing or finishes do you expect in a paper that you're going to work with?
It's unsized. I have used that Dechen paper, the French paper. I've used it for watercolor as well, but to use watercolor on it, I have to size it. So you know, it's unsized. So in fact, I rang John Purcell, the man who makes the paper, who brings the paper into England. I rang him to say, did he know of a watercolor paper like Dechen that I could use for watercolor? And he said, well, Dechen. And I said, no, it's not sized properly. So he said, oh, well, size it. So that's what I do if I need, you know, if I want to use it for watercolor.
And can I ask, what do you mean by sizing?
Putting a sort of fixative in the, like it's a glue, really. In fact, well, I use cornflour paste. So it's sticky. It's something sticky, so that doesn't. So when you put the watercolor on, it doesn't go. Yeah. And you know, it leaves it leaves the watercolor to sit on the top, which is, of course, for me anyway, what I like about watercolor.
Yeah, we are going to have a watercolor demonstration by Carol Mitchell actually later on in April. So that will be interesting because yours is a very controlled watercolor technique, isn't it? Because you're using your.
Are you referring to me?
No, I'm referring to Brenda.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't think nothing that I do is controlled, really. It's very much.
That's all relative.
It is relative.
It's allowing, yes, but it's allowing the medium to do the things that it's good at. And, you know, taking it into another direction if I can. But that seems to be what interests me, just experimenting with various materials and then following my nose with how it works out.
If I put you up onto the main screen, Brenda, can you show us around what's around you, some of the pieces?
Oh, okay.
And you talked about the plates, didn't you?
Yes, okay. Well, I've got a little selection here of things that to show you what I've been interested in doing. This is an etching. Hang on, let's see if I can get it in. It was when I first started doing etching. That took 3 plates, and if anybody who's done serious printmaking knows that once you've got past the first plate, then you have a lot of problems with registration, which presumably is why everybody wants to go over to digital. But anyway, this one was properly done as an etching, and I was just playing around with the space really. And also I love the effect of one color. So the plate tone here, there's nothing on the plate, but it's a plate with a skim of red and a skim of yellow and a skim of blue over it, which gives it that lovely pearlescent kind of finish. This one shows more of what when I started seriously doing textured sort of things and embossings, I used more than one plate. I found that using more than one plate meant that I could be more pushy with what I was doing than, you know, if I wanted to get something really deep, I could leave it in the acid overnight, and it may work or it may not. And but sometimes when it does work, it's really exciting because you get these wonderful textures. I mean, you can't really see terribly well here, but this one
you had that one on your, or one like that on the film, didn't you?
Did I? Yes, one like that. Yeah. See, that's a plate. That's a plate. And that's a plate. So I'm using the edges of the plate as part of the image, as part of the way that it's worked out.
And you do that also with the sheets one, don't you? How many plates is the sheets picture?
Well, the sheets, because it's bigger than my press, and I've got a pretty meaty press. I did it in 2 pieces, and it has a cord that goes right across where the sheet is in the front. I haven't got a copy of it here, but yeah, that you'll have to go with me, I think, on that one. I can't. Yes, it's too big. It's really big. You know, it's sort of that big, and the textures on the sheets themselves is actually just plastic. So I've made one plate which has got the etching on it. See, I'm mixing. At that stage, I was mixing all the etching and the colograph, and the colograph became more and more important until I discovered that I could actually ink it up, and then it could become something in itself. It's not based on etching. So this is another one along the way, which has some plastic to make the snow.
Earphone crisis.
Well, I think.
Sorry,
I think these earphones are made for somebody much bigger than me.
Daniel wanted to say something. Sorry.
Yes.
So the plastic is in the piece. You've embossed the plastic in.
No, there's 2 plates for that one. One is the actual black and white and grey image, and the other plate is the colograph. So it's just a piece of card with plastic stuck on it. And I mean, I've found out how it's very loose. You know, in fact, if you look really closely, you'd realise that it is really quite loose, and it's just embossing. It's not. I don't ink that one up.
The plastic provides the texture that gets embossed.
Yes, yes, and I have used a lot of different materials for that. This system worked quite well until I had these earphones. Okay, so that's going another stage on, because that is a colograph, and it is made with very thin chipboard. The framers used to use it. I haven't seen it recently, but it was about an 1/8 of an inch deep, and it's just made with chipboard. And the sky is 3 chipboards thick, because you've got to always think in reverse. So, some of these bits that are sticking out quite a long way are not thick. They might not have any chipboard in them. So
yes,
this is all experimenting.
Yeah, it's reverse. I'm really fascinated about this use of all these materials, because yesterday when I was talking to Vivian, she was talking about using plastic, and you use plastic, as you say, just domestic plastic. You just find these things and just think, honestly,
you can use, as long as you own the big press that you're using, or you use your own blankets, or you ask people's permission, because I mean that happens. They do destroy blankets and presses. All this experimenting, but plastic doesn't really, and you can put most things through, as long as you make sure that you've tried. You just got to be sensible. What you tried last time with the pressure, is it thicker than that? So if it is thicker than that, you release the pressure a bit. That's how I work. I don't do it by sort of anything that's kind of fixed. So
what was the learning curve as you introduce a new material? Does it take you like 3 or 4 years or 3 or 4 hours to where you've discovered?
Well, it depends. It depends. I certainly, when I was at this stage, I got very excited about the thought of being able to print from materials rather than from etching. It just has a much more gutsy feeling about it. So yes, it was this moment when I realized that the things I was experimenting with for embossing were, in fact, I was able to ink up. That was a sort of,
that's one of the things that caught my eye right away with the first piece I saw, which was the sheets on the line.
Yeah.
And was the boldness of it, yet there's a sort of playfulness and an illustrative quality to it, the perspective. So you were handling all these things with such a space between them, and you brought them together. The different...
It's one of my favorites. It was an actual image that I remember seeing. I never take photographs and try and work from photographs, but I think it destroys it for me if I've done that. But I did sit for hours in those Corfu olive groves and drew. I was drawing that one, the one at the bottom there. I'm going to get really mixed up soon. The one that's behind the plastic. That one there was one that I spent hours on, and that was part of this sheets image. That was the holiday in Corfu that was really successful.
So this one that we're looking at here, you're saying, so that is a traditional etching?
This is a traditional etching, yeah. And I could well have stayed, if I hadn't gone on this kind of really weird route of getting interested in colograph. Sorry, I'm just going to have to
pop those down. We don't want anything broken or destroyed.
I'm having trouble with this thing.
Nothing damaged, please.
Okay, yeah, and in fact, it's funny because I've gone full circle, and at the moment I'm remaking some of my early etchings, like this one here, and just printing them in black and white. At the time, I wanted to have colour, and there are printmakers who don't rate colour, the old-fashioned ones. But I also feel that I've gone full circle, and so some of these, including that and the sheets, I've done in black and white, and it's pretty stunning.
I think in the magazine, if my memory serves me right, we've got a black and white sheet. So I'm just.
Oh, have you? Right. Oh, good. Okay.
Yes,
well, there we are.
Yes.
Now,
if people want to have a look in the magazine, there is a black and white sheets in there. We showed the colour sheets, and it is huge. You're not wrong. And I think I said this on a previous interview that I remember selling that, and I took it to the lady's house, and we went to hang it on the wall. And I think I told you, in the end, I couldn't hang it because her light switch was in the way, and she was like, well, do you think it'll be okay? And I was like, no, I do think you're going to need to move that light switch because it was so heavy. That
She was probably bigger than she realised.
Yes, I think so, because in a gallery setting, of course, on a big wall, but it is huge. And I've seen the plates. And just to clarify, you print, you've got 2 plates for sheets, and then you print it on 2 separate pieces of paper, and then you attach the 2 pieces of paper together.
Well, there is this washing line that goes like that, right across. So that's where the printer's cut.
Right.
So it's just mounted in 2 pieces, and of course they've both been embossed, and so it all works as one. And I don't try and glue them together. I they're hung separately.
So are they dry mounted, or how do you mount them?
Oh, well, they're mounted at the sides. They're mounted around. I don't know what dry mounting is.
So they are behind. They're behind a window mount, aren't they? So that holds.
Yes, this one. Yes, they have a window mount. They're not. I'm not doing anything with the edges. I felt I'd done enough. In fact, they're not even printed with Duchenne, because I did them before I discovered Duchenne.
So to go back to Daniel's point about dry mounting, Brenda would send them to a framer, so she wouldn't actually do that aspect of it herself. Generally, although you do some framing, but generally you would send that off to a framer. And then, yes, as the person who is generally taking your work to be framed, quite frequently, yes, most of the work, well, it would be dry mounted, yes. That was it would be conservation mounted as is the convention.
There's a few different products now.
Yeah.
Alternatives to hinging works on paper. Of course, hinging is the most archival, but if you need something to stay down and flat, there's a removable dry mount that can be reheated and it will just peel right off without damaging the art.
But it's not acid. Is it acid free? Is it?
They all claim to be. No.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That's something that we have. Maybe we haven't quite got yet. But although Bev, who's our framer in the audience, maybe she can tell us. So that's called. What did you call that? So it's a dry mount that's heatable.
There's a removable dry mount, but there's a few different products, and that's just one that's been popular with mounting anything from like a small canvas to works on paper. If it needs to be mounted, if there's problems with hinging it or stretching canvas,
the problem I have is that my work is so heavy, so I have had some problems with having pictures returned, but they're not usually returned to me.
No.
And they get, like, I'm quite happy to pay for it if it's an issue that I've caused, but they are very heavy.
Yeah, they'll drop in the frames. We now we do have obviously Bev and Kenny, who we use, who are both very good at Brenda's work. They know dry mounting of any kind isn't recommended for original work. Sorry, perfect.
Well, that's what I thought. So anyway, I to be honest, sometimes I have to say I use cornflour paste
to hold the paste.
Yes, but it's not cornflour paste. Well, that's if I'm doing collages, which I do quite a lot of. Oh, I must mention this. This is the best. This and 10 others was the best purchase I've ever made. So if you want to get into doing collograph, you need weights, to get that sort of surface kind of bonding properly when you're making the plate, and also for collage. If you're using collages, it's really important. I messed about with filling up bottles with water and with finding bricks that didn't sort of spread all over the place, and books.
Books are always handy.
They're not cheap, but boy, were they were they good? Yeah. Anyway.
So Vincent's saying, I've done dry mounting at art college many years ago, and it required heat to bond photographs, posters onto board, and it had to be precise. I think what Daniel's mentioned, as say, removable dry mounting is something different here.
I haven't heard of that. I
was going to say, I'm not sure that that's something that we use over here, and as Bev says, not recommended. Although if anyone wants to see about the framing process, do watch Bev's film, because it's absolutely brilliant, and it's on our website on the watch page, and it's on our YouTube channel, and she goes through the entire process, and she creates like a little packet. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. I learned so much about framing. That's not my thing. I sell the work and then take it to the framers. They deal with that. I wouldn't know the processes that it goes through, but I am aware of this issue with the dropping, because obviously we've had
it is a problem.
Yeah, the dropping. Before we came on air, we were discussing the differences between printmaking in the UK and printmaking in America, which was a really interesting conversation. And Daniel was just telling us that here in the UK, printmaking is pretty, there's lots of people doing printmaking, aren't there? We have printmaking shows. We have the printmaking show at the Royal Academy. We've got the Society of Graphic Fine Artists, and then we've got the Royal Society of
Painted
printmakers, thank you, or the Royal Etchers. So that it's quite a big thing here. Whereas Daniel, you were saying in America that actually it's in quite distinct pockets.
Well, it's still a vast country with lots of artists. There's lots of printmakers, and there's lots of people with their own printmaking and their own studios. But it kind of died off in the 80s. And part
money.
of it had to do,
it's to do with money.
People would print out editions, and they couldn't sell them, and then they discount them, and then that would cause the market to spiral, and it saturated the print market, and that hurt all these handmade print production studios. They couldn't afford to keep them going. And so
what a shame.
There are people that can print on their own, have their own press, and still do it, but it's still competing with digital printing. So you don't have as much awareness of it, and I'm not the go-to for that. So there's probably a whole sphere of artists out there going, "What are you talking about? There's all kinds of us. Check this out." And there you go. But what I lived through a generation of seeing just a lot of traditional art forms go by the wayside because of economics.
It's happened here, but I don't think as much as over there. And also the amount you can charge for your original print is somewhat. It's all messed up by the fact that people like Hockney can, they use obviously they use mechanical methods to make wonderful pieces of work. So he can charge £100,000 for a print of his, and those of us who are not quite as famous as him, you have to kind of. I'm always being told I should put my prices up, and I'm.
Oh, why did he tell you that? I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Well, it moves into a different racket, and it's sort of the collectability. It's a game at some point for collectors.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good that there's all different levels, and you can exist where you're comfortable. If you start moving up that price scale to where only a certain few can afford you, you're at the mercy of whatever's going to happen in that circle.
But as long as people who are buying expensive, what are those prints that G-clays? They do a painting, and they make what they call an original print from the painting, and it's signed, so they might have 150 in the edition, and they tell people that it's an original print. And that is really, for those of us who are members of Royal Society.
That's kind of a misrepresentation of
it is
truth.
But it's also ignorance.
And I think a more fair, honest way to describe it, and how I do it, is it's a digital print. It's a limited edition digital print.
Yes.
Call it a gilet, but gilet means digital print. It doesn't mean fine art, hand cast or whatever.
I think, for instance, I'm a member of the Royal Society of Painter Printmakers, and for a long time we didn't want to have digital prints in for that very reason. However, of course, one has to realise that there are some wonderful pieces of work being made now digitally, and they should be given the sort of as long as they are ones where you can see that there has been a really serious process going on, then it just muddies the water, I'm afraid. What's that?
You saw my studio, the number of proofs and the materials and experiments that we do in the digital realm, and the log of phone calls and emails back and forth with the people that I work with, which were the people who basically developed digital printing.
Yes.
For them, it's a science and an art form, but
yes.
It's not
the
same. Apples and oranges. But to recreate a painting that you can't print, because a print is a unique work of art, to recreate a painting using science and technology, behind that science goes a lot of dedication, a lot of money, and a lot of time. But it is what it is. It's the best possible reproduction of an image that you can get. Offset litho can't do it, and it won't last. So to get the pigments through the jets, it took a lot of money, a lot of pains, and a lot of those people jumped ship. Those businesses jumped ship because it wasn't profitable either. It cost too much to make those, to make a good one.
Yes.
I still do it.
Well, that's the way it goes. It's what turns you on, really, isn't it? It's what makes you feel good.
Well, if I've sold a painting that costs $100,000 and I want something of that for myself, I'll take the limited edition print, but it has to be one that I carefully, manage the printing myself, so that you can't tell the difference. Well, most can't tell the difference from the original painting unless you get right up and look at the glare. But that you don't get those kind of results without a tremendous amount of agony.
Yeah, I think it's the economics, and it's the integrity, and it's the honesty, isn't it? I think you have to be honest about, and I think we've been having this discussion about original printmaking, and I even wrote a book on it, if you remember, back in 2012, of which Brenda supported me and introduced me to quite a lot of printmakers, which was really helpful. I think you have to be honest, and you have to be honest about what you're doing, and that has integrity. The minute you're trying to slightly deceive, then that's where it all falls down, and that's where it all gets muddy, and no one really knows what they're getting. And I agree with you about the digital printmaking, that you have to give it an opportunity, but we all have to be, it's about ethics. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to ethics. We all have to consider that we're all part of a collective economy, the creative economy, and we all are contributing to that. And as you said, Daniel, when the creative economy imploded on itself and started basically eating itself, everyone lost out. And that's when printmaking in America went by the wayside, because everyone was discounting, and I think there is a little bit of a danger that could happen now in the art world.
It's an attractive proposition to me, because I have 9 planchettes full of prints. There wasn't, when I was printing, when I was sort of really at my best and producing a lot of work, I would do editions of 100 usually. Now, probably 2/3 of those wouldn't sell out, and I have quite a lot left, but I haven't I haven't gone that way.
But
I haven't sold them off cheap.
Don't sell them cheap, because not only will you do yourself a disservice, you're being.
It's going to be a bonfire sometime around.
It's going to be it's disrespectful to your collectors who have paid the full price. For
yes,
your
that's
work.
right. That's what
so
I
you
feel.
can't discount because you'll disrespect your collectors. You know, I've spent a significant amount of money on Daniel's work. And if I found that he suddenly started discounting his work, I would be very, very angry, because I have earned that money and I have therefore invested my hard-earned money in Daniel, thinking that I can trust him. And the same with you, Brenda. And then if that trust breaks down, you'll never buy another original artwork in your life, will you? Because you'll be like, well, hang on, I trusted this guy. Yeah. And then he went off and discounted.
Certainly an edition to print that has an intrinsic value.
Yes,
it would. Yeah, it's not right. And I mean, I see it on eBay, and you know, people putting stuff on eBay. I mean, you do get people who've you know, Granny's thing that she bought in 1975. They've inherited, and so they want to know how much it's worth, you know.
Yes, and often what happens then is
you'll have to find out.
Yeah, often what happens then is if it's an artist of at a relative level, the right thing is that the gallery, or if their artist is self-representing, buys that piece back to preserve the market, and that's what they should do: is buy that piece back, preserve the market, and then sell it on.
Most of the galleries have died, I believe.
Let's not diss the galleries at this point. I'm
not dissing them, but I feel that to try to exist at the moment is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
It's a difficult.
I don't think an artist should be buying their own work back. I think you should create a demand so there's an absorption rate that keeps a healthy amount of secondary market work.
Yeah,
and
I don't.
It gets out of control. The artist has to be creative and do something different so that supply doesn't build. So mix it up. There's other ways. One of the things that's caused downward spiral in the print market was that, like, serigraphy had to be done in a big shop where, you know, it cost a lot of money to do one edition, and so they would print out the edition.
Yes.
And when everybody involved didn't get their money back, then they would just sell that to a dealer, and he'd blow it out wherever. And that's what ruined it.
And that's it's disrespectful to everybody.
Different types of print. Sometimes we're comparing apples and oranges here.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I don't think you need to.
You might hear a piano lesson starting in the
we're going to hear a piano lesson going in a minute. I don't think we need to worry or dwell too much on the fact that you're. We'll mute you in a minute. There you are. Look, I've muted you. Have I muted? Yeah, I've muted you, Daniel. We'll unmute you in a minute. I don't think you need to dwell too much on the apples and oranges scenario. I have muted you. Don't worry. I think you have to dwell on the ethics. And I really strongly believe in the ethics of the market and the preserving the market for everybody who's in it. And we all contribute to the collective economy of creativity. And if we start selling out, where's that going to go? Where's that going to end up? That just doesn't help anybody. So if you underprice your work and you're a printmaker, you underprice the market. And all those other hundreds of people who are in the market haven't given you permission to do that. So I think it's fair and right to be respectful about the market you're in, but you have to price your work also respectfully where you are in your career and how well you've sold and how you grow that career gradually. I'm just going to pop Daniel down in the corner while he does his dance. I'm just popping him down there a minute while he deals with his children and their music lesson. So that's a massive subject, I think, about pricing and the collective economy and ethics. It has such a relevance in the print market because of this, as you said, about the muddying of the market. Digital prints are a new thing. You haven't ventured into digital prints, have you, yourself?
Well, I'm right at the other end. I'm so far away. It's not that I love my iMac computer, thank you. But I don't actually use it for producing prints. I use it for just about everything else.
Doing all your marketing and everything.
Yeah.
Do you, because now there's this whole thing about NFTs. Have you got any idea what that means? NFTs.
No.
So they are digital prints, but they only exist in the digital world. You never get an actual physical product. They stay on a screen, which is the absolute other end of where you are. And I'm just intrigued. You are such a traditional printmaker, and you've created your own methodology with collagraphs, and you've really pushed that to its nth degree.
I don't think I'm a traditional printmaker by any means, but anyway,
but using the traditional printing press, and you started off with etchings.
Nobody's ever told me I'm a traditional printmaker.
I know you like to think of yourself as a rebel.
Well, there are people who I don't know. There are people who perhaps don't count me in on some levels, but anyway. But you
know how to do it properly, but choose to create your own entry into it. As we've gone into this lockdown and you've experienced a different way of us, the galleries are closed, do you think that has an impact on your thought process and how you will move your career forward coming out the other side?
Not really. No, I don't think so. I am changing what I'm actually doing, because I'm doing these I'm working on the embossings for my other work. I'm actually using those as a starting point for watercolors, and also using gold and silver leaf and rub. There's some wonderful new products at the moment which I have been very keen on using, because they actually look like silver leaf when they're not. Silver or gold leaf, they come up really nicely.
And do you have some of those there that you could show us?
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the heap. Do you want me to pull those out?
I do want.
You're not going to go by the easy route here.
I never. Have you ever known me to go by the easy route, Brenda Hartill? Really?
This is one.
Oh, look at that.
So it sort of glows, and it looks like metal. It looks three-dimensional, and so just a very small one. This one, but
And that's got this new rub on.
Yes, and there's also a metal paint too that they're bringing out some quite interesting new products in that one over lockdown one's been looking at. There's metallic pencils that coloured pencils. And what I've done is I'm using the textures that I've got on my collagraphs to sort of bring out the texture more with colour pencil.
And where do you get these?
It's very mixed media.
Where are you finding them?
The big. I can't think at the moment what. The big companies. I just.
You used to go to Intaglio, didn't you, a lot? In
London? Yes, I go for my etching materials. Yes, but I tend to use other things that are not necessarily from printmaking suppliers.
Like plastic.
Well, yeah, they usually tell you if they have if they've got they're kosher to use.
Yeah.
For a piece of art.
You've never being okay for a piece of art has never been anything that stopped you before using lots of things.
You're you're right.
So over lockdown, you haven't changed the way that you're planning to run your practice, but what it's done is given you time to find new materials.
Yes, I think that's true. Yeah, I have been making a few new colograph plates, but that's yeah, I'm keeping that under wraps at the moment.
Oh, you're not showing those these colograph plates. So we'll have to wait and see those after.
Well, I don't mind showing you some more. I've got a few
Come
more
on, show
here
us.
if you
Yeah,
want
show us some
me
more.
to.
Definitely.
I was really interested to show people how these are a small series, but in fact they are very similar to some of my larger ones. And this is where I'm getting into doing using Carborundum, which is this wonderful dark. Well, it prints dark, but it's a grit that you can sprinkle on to make a very deep colour. And I've been doing that, and this is a mixed media with etching and then printing with silver leaf and then placing. I'll show you the. I had it here before, but it's getting buried. All these things getting buried.
Louise is saying that Art Van Gogh have a wonderful selection of materials. Have you tried them?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
actually.
maybe have a look at those then. Art Van Gogh.
This is a plate for something similar to the one that I showed you. But then we have this kind of method which makes it much easier to print. It's not very glamorous, but this is a piece of the sort of plastic that they use for showing prints, or a heavy plastic, and then a window cut in a piece of card and then mounted on another piece of card, and we just cover it with brown paper tape because it's quick, and then that locks that in. So if you're doing a small plate, you can it will hold it for you. You can hold it by this, by this, and then you can ink up inside.
And then
so this one you ink up without this.
Yes.
In the outside, the Carborundum bit, and then you put that thing on, and that allows you to do a bit of complicated rubs, as I call them. But we won't go there. It's just getting too complicated. Anyway, there we go.
So that's what you create, like a little holder, so that it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So did I show you that one?
Yes, we saw that. We saw that one. Yeah.
I'm going to get.
There's so many.
Here.
There's so many process elements, and look at this different color palette completely.
Well, this is actually sheen collé. So I'm using tissues which have been pasted on the back. In fact, when you paste a piece of tissue for sheen collé, you can paste it onto a piece of glass and then press the tissue on so it doesn't wet it too much. And then you sandwich it all together and then do the print, and then you hope it all comes out.
Goodness gracious. There's so many moments of risk.
Yes.
So many moments of risk, which is why you have to price these things properly.
Well, that's
going
right.
back to the previous conversation.
Okay.
I think that's upside down. That one was upside down. You need to turn it around.
Okay.
There we go. That's better.
Okay.
So that is a colograph plate.
Yes, it's a colograph. Yeah.
And then it
includes this material called Carborundum. And I did actually. You asked me to bring these things.
I know
here,
I did.
So,
I know I did.
Here we go. Here we go.
Because everybody wants to see them. They want to see how you get to these amazing. Look,
it's pretty crude, and this is full of carborundum, and you shake the carborundum onto, oh yeah, I can't actually get it. Hang on.
That's it. Bring the.
It's actually quite heavy. So you line yourself up better than this, obviously. So you take this stays in the scrim.
Yes.
And then you shake it over the plate,
and
which has got glue painted on it.
And that's a pale brown colour. So does it stay a pale brown colour, or does it change?
No. That just gives you the texture. That just gives you the texture, and that's what I find. It's a very, very rich, dark. It looks a bit like aquatint, but it's very hard to get aquatint to go as deep and dark as that. And when you're working with the sort of variety of things that I work with, it's a great way of increasing the depth. I like to, because quite a lot of my pieces are quite sculptural. So, for instance, this one.
If you put it on your easel, like you did before.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right.
I know. And then you'll need to just tip your screen back up because you've dropped your screen down slightly. So push your screen. There we go.
Okay.
Now that one is one of those that you took to the edge, didn't you? The plate for that. Tell us about that.
Oh yes, this is a bit of an old chestnut now, because I've told a lot of people this story, but it was actually the result of an accident, an acid accident, because I picked up an old bottle which wasn't labelled, and I discovered after I glugged it into the acid tray that it was pure. And so the whole thing started to dissolve very quickly, and there were some fairly nasty fumes coming up. But at that time, I had quite a good fume cupboard that I'd made sure that I, was doing it properly, and I managed to rescue them. And it was a landscape. I was working on a landscape at the time, and so I started breaking it up, and discovered I could, if I glued it onto the base plate, then I could use it. So it has some lovely sort of it's erosion, really. I'm using the acid as erosion, and I was very happy, but I was a bit worried. I did actually go to the hospital to find out if I'd done myself any harm, because it was pretty powerful. It was absolutely stupid.
I think it's that thing about happy accidents, but that was a dangerous accident.
Yes. Well, that actually I used those pieces in 10 different plates. I mean, of different sizes. They were wonderful. They were these wonderful sort of eroded, patterned pieces.
And in the background of that one, has that got carborundum on it?
That's carborundum.
So could you show us that quite close to the screen so we can see the texture? Sorry to make you bring it back to the screen, but I think you can actually see the texture when you get close.
If I do it that way, you might be able to see it a bit better.
Yes, it's almost like velvet, and look at the colours in that. If you go up a bit, go up. There we go. That's it.
I can't see anything.
You can't see anything, so I'll guide you. That's just astonishing, the colours that you've got in there.
Yeah.
And it looks almost like velvet on the screen.
That's why I like it. Yeah.
I think we've got one of those on exhibition at the Curlew, and the Curlew will be reopening in May, on the May date.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that's good. So we will actually be able to show some work, and I think that's been mainly on show to the chefs who have just been experimenting. So hopefully we'll be able to have another one of our events at the Curlew and at the
Well, that worked. I thought that worked very well.
I know.
Where people were coming around and we, the artists, were sitting with a few of our pieces, and they had a chance to have a real talk about
exactly.
it. You know, everybody in their masks, of course.
Yes, they're all masked and only taking off to eat. But I think that we'll definitely do another one of those events as soon as we're allowed, because it was so incredibly successful. It was just eight artists, I think we did, and it was lovely for people to be able to see the work so close up and to meet you guys. When they had it, that was back in the summer, wasn't it, when we were still allowed to go out for a couple of weeks. Brenda, thank you as always. I wonder if Daniel's there. Let's have a look and see if Daniel's there. Doesn't look like it. Looks like Daniel's left us. He's gone all dark. Oh no, he is there. He is there. There he is. There he is. Have we got lots of music going on in the background? We're just about to wrap up, Daniel, so I'm just going to bring all of us back up on screen. And he's gone. Unfocus the screen on Daniel. There we go. Oh no, we can't see Daniel. So we saw him momentarily, didn't we?
Yes,
and then he was gone. I wonder if let's give him another go. No, he's gone. Oh no, he is. We can't see you, Daniel. No, we can't see you. We can hear you though.
You can see me.
Can you see us?
I can see you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope the piano lesson's going well.
It was great. It was great to meet you, Daniel. It was really, really interesting.
Really, all you've done, and it's just everything that you do is incredible and strong. It's nice to see really enjoying art and their life in art the way it's supposed to be done.
Well,
I think that's it, isn't it? You really bring the joy to it, Brenda, because you're such a great example of life ebbs and flows, but you stay there and you do your work and you do it so always innovating and always something amazing coming out, like those pieces now using with all the new metallics and everything. So no, it's been wonderful to see, and I can't wait for us to be able to do a live exhibition and to reveal your work back to the world.
I think we'll all be happy about that.
And I can't wait to get back out to America and see and visit the gallery again. And because Daniel was telling us before we came on air, he's built a new studio in his garden, so I should think the work is going to be incredible. I'm not going to tell my husband because his bank balance will start twitching really badly. But thank you so much for joining us, Daniel, and thank you, Brenda. Tomorrow I'm interviewing Annie Catford, and Annie's a filmmaker, so we'll be showing some of Annie's films. And I think that's going to be really good fun to see that. And then over the weekend, we've got Julia Desch, who is a textile artist, and we've got Stephanie Else, who's a glass artist. So both of those are definitely worth watching. They will be premiered on the website. And sorry, I'm just going to mute Daniel's mic slightly. They'll be premiered on the website and on YouTube, and then obviously we'll discuss them on Monday when we're back. I can't remember who's on Monday. Forgive me, whoever it is. I'll remember that tomorrow. My brain is good, but it can't remember everything. So thank you so much, Brenda. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, everyone on Facebook. It doesn't look like anyone gave us any questions, but we are way over time. So
there's some lovely comments, which is very much appreciated.
Amazing comments. Well, as I say, everyone loves your work. So I think it was the rightful thing to be on the front cover. And what I would say is, if you want to get hold of Brenda, she is on Instagram, Brenda Hartill. And if you send her a DM, then she will message you back. Oh, look, she's got all her little details on there. And she is in Southeast Open Studios as well.
So that's in May. The first 3 weeks in May, we're all going to have we're all opening our studios, although we all have to be very careful, of course, still. I'll have had my second jab. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so if you want to go and see Brenda's work, you can see it at her home in Udemore near Rye, and she'll be in the Southeast Open Studios booklet. You can look in the Art360 magazine and you'll find all her details there. And as I say, and if all else fails, then all you have to do is go on Instagram and send her a direct message. And that is the best way to do it. And follow her on Instagram, obviously. And I think you have the lovely Lucy does some work for you on Instagram, doesn't she?
She does, yes.
Lucy, Jonathan's assistant, helps out Brenda on Instagram.
I've finally been drawn into social media, having resisted it for some years.
Yeah. It is the only way, unfortunately, these days now.
Extraordinary.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I will see you tomorrow with Annie. And thank you again, Brenda. It's been brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Daniel.
you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Daniel. Bye.
Bye-bye.